Hello everyone, hope you're having an excellent day today. I'm doing pretty great. The Rock Raiders build is nearing 50% done. A lot has been accomplished since the last couple videos. It's been to its first LEGO show, it did very well. Let's dive in and see what's changed. In the last video, we shared a lot about how the mist machine was really working with the lava down there, but all this gray above that has now been added. We have this very cool subterranean lake with some very nice glittery fairy lights, Christmas style lights working perfectly under that transparent light blue bricks put on their sides in snot fashion. Got some very detailed pillars and stalactites and stalagmites happening here. The problem was I ran out of time before going to Tampa, so I wasn't able to roof this off as I would have liked. I would have loved to have finished the top of this cave just a little bit more significantly. Very similar to the ones down in the lava area, but I think the effect still speaks for itself. It really was, I think, a highlight out of this huge MOC, so I'm really happy with how this part turned out. Over to the right of the lake, we have a little bit of a ore seam, an iron ore seam, and you got some little patches of iron ore there. They're mining it very effectively. This is very reminiscent of the game, so instead of being brown, it's kind of a dark orange color, because that's the color those pieces come in. I don't know if they come in brown yet. If they do, I would be buying them up pretty quickly. But I think it looks good, kind of contrasts with the dark gray and gives the miners something to do besides just stare at the beautiful water. There is a little kind of accessory light tucked away back there that helps not only show the miners and where they're working, but also kind of highlight that cave wall. I'm not super happy with that cave wall though. It's very upright and linear style, so I might be reworking it later. It's not quite as polished, I would say, as some of the stuff around the lake. That was more deliberate in its execution. The entire scene is decorated with a bunch of different minifigures, moving around, mining, doing all sorts of things. I've gone through about half of the minifigures so far in the first 2 layers, so I can definitely spread them out a little bit, move them around as I like. The 2 custom vehicles, the big driller and the little Geo Scout down there, are looking good, not too overwhelming. They actually fit perfectly in the scene, I think. So the figures and vehicles looking great. And I don't think we can dance around this gigantic green geode without talking about it for that much longer, but this was designed to be the centerpiece of the creation, and I think it achieves its goal pretty effectively. It is the largest cave space in the scene so far. It's bigger than your average dinner plate. It's probably about the size of a large watermelon. It contains about 400 different crystal pieces, has 5 different layers of calcite around the crystals to give it a cool textured edge. That was very difficult to execute, especially with studs in on all sides, including the ceiling, and trying to maintain a smooth appearance all the way around. You could see a few little seams and lines for the snot happening, and it's not perfectly square, so there's been a little bit of settling, especially with driving it back and forth, but I think it still achieves its purpose, still looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but it'll do. The lights in the giant green geode were achieved with 2 giant 10-watt black light bulbs, and you got one on the bottom down there, one on the top right there. And they're just out of sight if you're in a normal viewing position. If you get really close to the geode, you can see it by peeking over the edge. The stanchions at the convention means that you really aren't likely to get that close, so the effect and the illusion is very well maintained. These lights are big and bright, so they do get a little bit warm. There's some careful venting happening underneath the green geode, and there's also a little air vent at the top here, a little slit for some warm air to escape, and with that, the temperature stays pretty cool, just enough for the Lego bricks. With the geode completed mere days before departure deadline, we had to really rush this side of the build. So this rockwork, this entire wall was accomplished in a single day. And it looks fine, it just looks a little bit plain, a little bit flat. There's not a lot going on, no lights, no geodes, just a few decorations on top, some Rock Raiders mining some crystals we put on the ground, and it worked fine for the show. But I think there's a lot more that needs to be redone and re-executed as we get to finishing off 50%. This base over here on the right, however, is excellent. My brother Steven knocked this out in 40 minutes, I think, maybe an hour, and it looks great. He has a lot more experience with a workshop than I do. He's done some welding and such in the past, so he was very particular about how everything was arranged, And he didn't like when I put the dynamite next to the fuel canisters. He said that's a huge safety violation. I said, the Rock Raiders aren't that concerned about safety. They're in a different galaxy, there's no OSHA. They're just trying to get stuff done. And he laughed and shook his head. It was pretty funny. So the convention went great, the response was amazing. The lights really catch your eye across the hall, even in full normal light. Like all the lights are on in my studio and it's still super bright. So I'm really happy with the lighting so far. When you turn out all the lights, it's almost blinding, it's fantastic. And it definitely will be catching some attention any place it happens to be displayed at. Moving it into the convention hall was a very interesting situation. When Steven and I first moved this build into the rental car, this big rental SUV that we'd gotten, it was very sketchy. We were not comfortable moving it. It was very heavy. We didn't want to drop it. We didn't want to damage anything. And that was not fun. We were worried. I was rethinking everything. I'm like, I'm going to have to tear this down, make it modular. But then when we got to the convention, I said, we're not doing this alone again. Let's see if we can find some help. And obviously there's a bunch of other builders there, big, strong guys willing to help us move it. And it worked great once we had 4 people, each holding one of the 4 handles on the edges of the MOC. So the setup for this build literally took about maybe 20-30 minutes just to put the machines and figures on and turn on the lights. It was super easy. So the plan works, but I'm pushing the limits of what can be accomplished in this size format. So to go higher up, it's going to take some very meticulous planning. I think once we reach the top of the gray area, which should be just above that green geode, it'll be capped off there, and anything further will have to be modular in order to fit inside vehicles and be able to move safely, since we've now estimated this build to be about 300 pounds of solid brick. It's like a giant Lego coffin, if you will. It's a little bit morbid, but that's the closest comparison I can think of when you're carrying this thing in. So future goals, I really want to finish off the last few areas of gray in the dark gray area, make at least another light up feature here, maybe a spider cave or a geode or something. Over here, finish off this roof of this cave here, have a rock monster in here facing off against some rock raiders. Just a few nice things to cap it off nicely. That'll definitely be done for South Carolina. I'm going to a convention in Charleston with Brick Fan Fest. And then going to Atlanta BrickCon in February. That'll at least be to that accomplished point. I would love to go further, but we'll see how time permits. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps this video reach more people. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.